Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Planning Commission of May 8th to order at 6:03 p.m. If I could please have roll call.
Commissioner Rodriguez Ceja,
Present.
Commissioner Isiano,
Present.
Commissioner Fajardo, Vice Chairperson Lopez, Chairperson Franz.
Present.
For the record, Commissioner Fajardo and Vice Chairperson Lopez are absent.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and do our Pledge of Allegiance. You would lead us, please. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 3, public comment for items not on the agenda. I do not have any. Do we have any?
There are none.
Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment. And we will move on to item number 4, 4.1, the minutes from the Planning Commission of April 24th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve minutes from April 24th, 2024.
I'll second.
Okay, if we can have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rodriguez Ceja,
Yes.
Commissioner Isiano,
Yes.
Chairperson Franz.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. And we're gonna rearrange things a little bit tonight. We're gonna move item 5.1 down and start with item 6.1. And do we have a staff report, or will you come right up? Come right up. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Raimundo Trejo, General Manager of India Water Authority, and today I'll be presenting the new projects that are proposed for our capital improvement program. We do have a presentation before you, and the presentation will require an action from from the Planning Commission in terms of how our projects conform to various areas of the general plan, including the water supply policy, the water facility policy, and hazardous profile policies of the general plan. I'll start with the first of the projects, and I'll start with the new projects and end with a summary of past projects that were put before you. So that's probably me that has to move this. Okay, so the first one is the water facility building replacement, and the purpose of this program is to assess each of the buildings to ensure that they're not only to code, but that they do have a safe environment for our employees to not only work in, but structural integrity, and also to make sure that there's any repairs that need to be made to continue the life cycle of that facility. So the first one we refer to as water facility building replacement. Couple of examples are shown here. We do inspect our reservoirs annually, and anytime there's any deficiencies that are found, we want to make sure that we address those as part of our capital improvement program. The second one is a project that as soon as the budget is approved and as soon as we receive your approval, we're going out to bid with Plant 1 interior aluminum stairway. There's a tremendous amount of hazard when some of our facilities start to corrode, and this is one example of making sure that we replace this facility at Plant 1. That's at our headquarters, and that's to ensure the safety of our, we do the annual inspections as well. One project that you'll probably see, if you haven't already seen in the news, is the approval of a new maximum contaminant level for natural occurring hexavalent chromium, or chromium-6. And this is a sample or example of a past project that treats our water for chromium-6 levels. We're just above, and I mean marginally above, the new maximum contaminant level, which requires treatment. So moving forward this year, we'll begin the design of several facilities, and we'll be seeking grant funding for those facilities to be paid for, because this is an unfunded mandate. And therefore, because we are a disadvantaged community, we want to ensure that we proceed with planning and design. But construction may not happen for a couple of years, so you'll see this as a existing project next year when I get before you. Hopefully, get before you next year here. Another project that is grant funded, we've actually received funding with some shared costs, is emergency intertie connections with our neighboring facilities. This is a general map, but it's showing several of our facilities, but our neighbors just west of us, which is Myona Dunes, we do have grant funding. Total grant funding is $600,000 to construct interties, which allows us in an emergency to provide water to our neighboring agencies. And the second one is with the Coachella Valley Water District, again, allowing us to provide water to them in emergency and vice versa in the event that we need a section of our system has a break of some sort through a hazard. I mean, one recent event that occurred was Hillary, and this really safeguards our system as well as our neighbor systems to make sure that we continue to provide the fire protection to our neighbors as well as ourselves. The next program is an area that we received $900,000 in grant funding just this past year. I'll point out Michelle C. is in the audience. She's really the reason why we've been very proactive with this program, not only applying to grant funding, but also adding new policies that allows us to reimburse or provide a cost share of $3 per square foot of of landscape that's replaced with desert friendly, turf that's replaced with desert friendly. And when you plant a native tree, you will get $3 a square foot. If you choose not to plant a native tree, then you would get $2 a square foot. So as it stands, it's one of the most aggressive programs in the Valley, because most agencies have gone from $3 back to $2 or even $1. We're one of the few agencies that continues to offer $3. Here's a new project. That's Avenue 50th and Madison Street pipeline. That's almost a mile-long pipeline that we will be installing to continue to loop our system on the southwest end of our system. What this will do is provide additional fire protection, increased pressures. We've got some new development that's occurred not only in this side of the system, proposed development, including the Ventana project, and this would also help the Arroyo Crossings project that recently was constructed, but looping the system where it actually dead ends with 18-inch pipeline is a significant investment for the city to continue to support. And we provided you with a list of carryover projects so that if there's any questions on the projects we're proposing that are not in the list that I provided you, there's a reason we don't reiterate the past projects, is that the purpose of this presentation is for new projects. Nonetheless, that's a summary of some of the older projects, including well rehab, which continues on, pipeline replacement, recycled water project that we're studying with VSD, Plant 2 booster pump station that we began design a year and a half ago. So again, it's an existing project that continues on, and the rest of the list there. I will note that the meter changeout program, when presented to you last year, we since have received $1.8 million to fully fund that program. We do have a smaller cost share, so that's going to save residents some dollars. And really, changing out meters helps us with the conservation effort as well, so that we can measure the appropriate amounts of water that's delivered to our residents. So the recommendation today is as follows: that the Planning Commission approve resolution number 2088, finding that the proposed capital improvement program of the Indio Water Authority for fiscal year 24-25 and each of the public works projects incorporate therein are consistent with the City of Indio's General Plan 2040. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Not a question, just to say, I remember a year ago we were having the conversation about Chromium 6. I know that we are in a really good position, so I just want to commend the team for getting us to this point, and now at a point where we're ready to start applying for some grants to get us where we need to be in the next few years. So more of a comment just to say thank you for all of the hard work that you've all been doing, and that program for the reimbursement, $3, sound fantastic, and I can't wait to tell more people about it.
Thank you for that.
Any questions?
That was my question about Chrome 6. Looking at our neighbors next door, so he just took my question, so I'm good.
Yeah, thank you for that. We've been prepping for the last 2 years, and we've made a significant investment since. In the last 2 years, we spent $1 million of our funding to not only pilot the program, but to continue to repair our existing facilities to meet the MCL obligation, which is October of 2026. And we're hoping that from now till October 2026, we'll receive additional grant funding as we continue to be very aggressive in applying for funds.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you very much.
So I think we do have an action item, right, to approve? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2088.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rodriguez Ceja,
Yes.
Commissioner Isiano,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Lopez,
Yes.
Chairperson Franz,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you. Thank you very much, IWA. I'd like to note for the record that Vice Chair Jacqueline Lopez has joined us a little bit ago. Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item 5.1 under public hearing, resolution number 2090. Do we have a staff report, please?
All right, good evening. For the record, Kevin Snyder, Director of Community Development. So approximately 17 months ago, the Planning Commission requested staff to begin a conversation with the Commission on the issue of storage facilities. I'm going to use that term rather than saying mini storage facilities, self-storage facilities, recreational vehicle storage facilities, so I don't lose my voice. But in general, the Commission asked for a conversation around storage facilities that has led us to this evening. So just as a reminder, when we began that conversation, the Commission held several public study sessions on the issue of storage facilities. At that time, the Commission was concerned about the proliferation of these facilities in the city and wanted to initiate a conversation amongst itself and possibly make a recommendation to City Council, which you ultimately did. You recommended to the City Council, after reviewing various potential recommendation options, the idea of a moratorium. And as a reminder, a moratorium is basically a legislative pause in the utilization of regulations that pertain to a particular subject area. So in this instance, you recommend to the City Council that they enact a moratorium on the processing of building permits and or land use applications for storage facilities to give time to go through a thoughtful and public discussion about whether or not these facilities should be further regulated in the city and in what manner. So on March 15th of 2003, the City Council accepted the recommendation and enacted a urgency ordinance, a citywide urgency ordinance that applied throughout the city initially for a period of 45 days per state law. And then following that, the City Council in April of 2023 enacted a continuation of that moratorium. And that continuation occurred throughout the remainder of 2023 and into early 2024. And on March 6th, the City Council extended the moratorium for an additional 90 days at the request of staff to allow for additional work time to complete the necessary work and have the study sessions that we did have with the Commission on April 10th and April 24th. Again, those were public meetings, and members of the public were invited to participate if they wanted to. So again, this was a legislative pause, and throughout that process, we have been also doing other things to get feedback. We did a community survey, received 39 responses. The majority of those responses were in support of some curbing of storage facilities beyond a moratorium. And then we also had a virtual meeting with industry stakeholders and real estate professionals and other interested parties, and that occurred both. The community survey occurred from early October 2023 to early November 2023, and the virtual stakeholders meeting occurred in February of 2024. So this is the revised work plan that was approved by City Council on March 6th. You can see that we have worked to complete the majority of the tasks. We are here this evening to have a discussion with you. One correction, it says City Council study session on May 22nd. That's my failure. It should have said Planning Commission continue public hearing if necessary. So that May 22nd would be if for some reason you want to continue the public hearing this evening, then that would be an opportunity to do that till May 22nd for a date and time certain, if that is your choice. Right now, we're tentatively planning to bring your recommendation, if you ultimately have one, to the City Council at the second meeting in June, or June 19th. As a reminder, the moratorium would expire on July 1st, so Council would have to take some sort of action, either to extend the moratorium or take action on your recommendation. So, for the benefit of the public and as a reminder to the Planning Commission, I wanted to remind you what the process of analysis you went through. We held 2 public study sessions, again on April 10th and April 24th. For the April 10th meeting, staff presented you with 7 different policy alternatives ranging from no change to prohibition to location and limitations of location of facilities to other options. At the end of that discussion, the commission identified on consensus, no vote was taken because these were study sessions, the idea of what we called a hybrid policy alternative. And that was policy alternative number 4 plus policy alternative number 6 plus policy alternative number 2. Again, policy alternative number 4 was a location on the total number of facilities in the city. Policy alternative 6 was a location limitation for facilities. And policy alternative number 2 was enhanced design standards. So we came back to you on April 24th with more information around each of those policy alternatives in this hybrid concept that the commission identified and discussed it further with you. We discussed the best way to set a cap on the number of facilities of the city. We discussed various ways to establish location limitations. And we also discussed the concept of enhanced design standards. As you may remember, I presented you with the City of Scottsdale, Arizona's regulations for these type of facilities. The Commission discussed and reviewed these various topical areas, and then as part of your conversation that evening, you identified a different policy alternative. That policy alternative was to recommend to the City Council the concept of a prohibition on new facilities. And your conversation centered around the concerns, and I'm not speaking for the commission, just reporting back what staff heard. The concern on the limited industrial land base the city has in the city. We have approximately 519 acres, of which a significant portion has been consumed, and that does impact the ability to do both recruitment and retention of businesses to the city that may produce job-producing employment opportunities, which is a goal of our general plan. You were also concerned with the low employment generation of these facilities together with the low property tax generation and the low sales tax generation. So coming out of that, the consensus at the April 24th meeting was that the commission directed staff to prepare a public hearing notice and staff report and documentation for a public hearing, which is being held this evening, at which the commission would consider public input and the potential development of a recommendation to the City Council on a prohibition of these storage facilities. So some key findings. I mentioned before that we have a number of these facilities. We have 13 existing facilities. We have 7 facilities. There are various stages of approval, whether they've received their land use entitlement, they've received their building permit approvals, they're going through their building permit approvals and engineering approvals, or they're under construction. So in total, if all of these were built, which we anticipate that they will be, then we would have a total of 20 facilities in our city. That compares to a total of 9 in the cities of La Quinta, Coachella, Palm Desert, and unincorporated Bermuda Dunes. So we have a substantial number of these facilities in our city. Again, these facilities generate limited employment, limited property tax, limited sales tax. I already mentioned the 519 acres of industrial land base that we currently have. A prohibition on land uses is a legal exercise of the city's police power. You already have that in various regulations that the city has adopted. For example, you have the Unified Development Code, where if we've identified certain land uses are prohibited in certain zones of the city. You also have the Iowa 11 Corridor Specific Plan, which also identifies certain prohibited land uses within the area boundaries of that specific plan. As proposed to you tonight, The prohibition that's contained in resolution number 2090 would apply to the Unified Development Code and the Highway 11 Corridor Specific Plan. It would not apply to other specific plans that have been adopted throughout the city, because in order to do that, we would have to go and work with the affected property owners in those areas. That's a much longer process than we honestly have the time for, given the time limitation with the moratorium. So we focused on those properties covered by the Unified Development Code and/or those properties covered by the Highway 11 Corridor Specific Plan. We're talking primarily for the Highway 11 Corridor Specific Plan properties on the east side of the boundary, so properties east of Jackson Street on either side of Highway 111, primarily as you get closer to the eastern boundary of the city, where we do have, under the plan, certain properties that do have that workplace and employment overlay designation and do allow, on a limited basis, these type of facilities. We also looked at consistency with the general plan for the proposed prohibition, specifically Chapter 3, Land Use and Urban Design, and Chapter 5, Economic Development of the general plan. And as contained in the staff report, you'll see that staff does believe that the proposed prohibition is consistent with a number of policies from each of those chapters. And finally, we did look at this under the context of CEQA, or the California Environmental Quality Act, and staff has made a lead agency determination that it qualifies for what's called the common sense exemption, which it basically is that there is no anticipated significant environmental impact from this policy action. Now, that doesn't mean that actual development is being considered, because it isn't. It's just the actual policy action. So based on staff's review of the proposal against the allowability of the application of the common sense exemption, it did apply. So this evening, staff is recommending that you approve resolution number 2090. This would be a recommendation to City Council. You're not the final decision-making body. This is a policy action. So your action this evening, if you take any, would be in the form of a recommendation to City Council. And then I would note one item. While the resolution before you does not contain the 5-year review, that would be part of the recommendation to City Council. But because the resolution in front of you, that would be an additional recommendation that would go to the council, that they could act either concurrently or independently with their consideration of your recommendation on the prohibition. So it is something that, while it's not contained in the resolution, staff, you were very clear with staff that you would want to recommend that to council. So any recommendation that goes to council will contain that, but it doesn't necessitate you taking action on it this evening. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Obviously, this is a public hearing, so you are encouraged to invite members of the public to comment before closing the public hearing and discussing and possibly making recommendations. So thank you for the opportunity to give you the presentation and staff report. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of staff at this time?
I do. Kevin, could you clarify a little more about, you were saying that there are specific plans that have an overlay. Do you know roughly how much of the acreage that is designated for that? Like, are we, is it really making any sort of impact into what the reasons why we went down this path, right, is like the limited amount. So this overlay, do we have a sense of how much?
So in the Highway 11 Corridor Specific Plan, you have a limited number of properties that have that workplace employment overlay. We're probably talking in the range of approximately 30 acres. So it would affect those properties, not generally any other properties that are covered by that plan, because the rest of those are focused more on mixed-use development. But recognizing that this corridor had more an industrial character to it, we did, when you went through the adoption of the Highway 11 Corridor Specific Plan, you did reserve that industrial opportunity on the extreme east end of the Highway 11 Corridor Specific Plan. Other specific plans in the city that were previously adopted by council, and we did not go look through them exhaustively. There are 60 of them, but if they did allow for some sort of storage facilities, those would be unaffected by your recommendation to City Council. The council would have to go back and take separate legislative action on those specific plans, and we would have to work with the affected property owners. The majority of our specific plans are residential and/or commercial mixed use. So I don't anticipate that we would have many of those that would be impacted by this. But I just wanted to point out to you that if there is a specific plan that was adopted in, say, 2010 by the City Council, this recommendation would not affect that because that is a separate legislative action. But the Highway 11 corridor specific plan that was recently adopted by the City Council, that was city-sponsored, would be impacted by any recommendation you make to City Council for a prohibition.
Thanks for the clarifying. And actually, my follow-up was going to be that, understanding that most of our specific plans are in service of residential or commercial zones, so we don't anticipate for that to be an issue. The other question that I had was actually something that was brought up through public comment about specific language that should be included in the resolution for development that has already received entitlement. So can you maybe walk us through if that's necessary? Is it not necessary at this point?
Certainly. So the request was to recognize those 13 plus 7 would be unaffected by this prohibition. In essence, what they would be deemed as legal nonconforming land uses in the city, which means they have full right to operate. They have some limited ability to expand, or if there is a fire or other event that damages, they have the opportunity to rebuild. That party was requesting that either this evening or at council that there be a recognition of that. When we took the moratorium through to City Council, we did recognize those entities that were unaffected by the moratorium. It's a reasonable request. The Commission could, as part of your recommendation to Council tonight, amend the staff recommendation to identify and recommend to Council that it include a language that identifies and recognizes that there are existing and entitled projects that would be unaffected by the prohibition. Our staff can take that under advisement and make sure that that is put into the formal ordinance action by City Council. Because again, I don't think it's an unreasonable request. We did it previously for the moratorium, and again, it doesn't in any way affect the prohibition. It simply recognizes what has already occurred.
Any other questions of staff?
So you said 30 acres so that is just for me to kind of get it. That is for areas that are not identified. I'm trying to.
Sure. Let me explain that a little bit further. So when we adopted the Highway 11 corridor specific plan, there were certain areas at the eastern edge of that specific plan boundary, which is east of Jackson, basically running up against in close proximity to Indio Boulevard. So there was an area of the specific plan that we identified that had an existing somewhat industrial nature to it. And what we did is established this overlay, Workplace and Employment District overlay, in the Highway 11 corridor specific plan that has certain design standards and design orientations to improve the look and appearance of properties in that area that could be developed for industrial purposes. If you take action to recommend to the City Council the prohibition of storage facilities, the prohibition of storage facilities would apply to those properties that are designated workplace employment overlay in the Highway 11 corridor specific plan. So they would not be allowed. If a party came in the future, assuming that this ultimately was approved by the City Council, a party came in and wanted to develop storage facilities on one of the affected properties that has that workplace and employment overlay, they would not be able to. But it's a very small part of the specific plan, really centered or really focused at that extreme eastern edge of the specific plan boundaries basically on either side of Highway 111. Hopefully that's clear enough, or clear as mud.
So I think just to be 100% sure, we have 519 acres that we've been talking about, give or take. 30 of those are part of the Highway 111 specific, which is why this is being added to this language. The other 400 and whatever are mostly in the industrial area and would be covered by this moratorium.
Yes, because they would be regulated by the Unified Development Codes. Contained in the resolution are modifications to the use tables in the Unified Development Code that would take them from either a conditional use permit or permitted status to a prohibited status. So if you're not covered by a specific plan, you're covered by the Unified Development Code. And in both instances, ultimately, if you recommend to the council and they accept your recommendation for a prohibition, they would not be allowed.
Okay. And I think my only other question is, yeah, I was kind of surprised the 5-year language wasn't in there, so I think that's something we can discuss to see if we want to do that.
And you certainly can. It wasn't a requirement, but it's certainly something that you can, as part of your recommendation, you could take either one action if you felt it was important to recognize those that are already existing and or have been approved per the request. You could also take action to identify the 5-year review period. Neither one of those are necessary for your action tonight. Staff would take them under advisement and make sure that they got put into what went to City Council. So it doesn't require an amendment to the resolution for either one, but if you would like to, it's certainly within the purview of the commission to do that.
Okay, perfect. All right. We'll go ahead then at this time and open the public hearing. And I believe we have one request to speak. Do we have a Brian McCollum? Thank you.
Do you want your clicker? There you go. Good evening. My name is Brian McCollum. I work for Security Public Storage. And I am here to speak on the behalf of self-storage. Madam Chairperson, Madam Vice Chairperson, Commissioners, and distinguished guests. I want to talk about how self-storage is a benefit to the community and how I would ask that there not be a prohibition put on this. Folks who need self-storage tend to be going through some sort of a life event. Often there's something significant that's happening, can be their downsizing, perhaps a death in the family, a number of things, a number of reasons that people might need storage. And folks who work in storage tend to be very compassionate and help people through these tough times. We end up working closely, and I will share a quick story. I know I have a short amount of time, but one of my first days, I received a call from a customer whose mom had to go into a assisted living place, and she was very stressed about where to put it. And we helped her through it to identify what the right unit was, what the right price point was for them, and set up a situation that worked well for this individual. And that is where we come from on a normal basis. We are in from a compassionate way of helping the community. We help folks in small businesses who need space, people with a limited space in their houses that need storage. 80 to 90% of our customers are residential customers, and most of them want storage that's within about a 10-minute drive from their space. And my particular unit is 8 minutes from here. It's very common for folks as they're scaling their business to also need self-storage, going from the position of maybe from their garage to something larger. And we tend to be big around folks who are in sales or pharmaceuticals or various groups who need space for storage. One of the things I think we are most proud of is that we are job creators. In addition to the folks who can work on site and often live on site, we provide extensive support for citizens that help out, such as maintenance contractors, folks who work on our doors, our gates, our HVAC, landscaping, painters, elevator maintenance, electricians, roofing contractors, gutter companies, etc., as well as various merchants. Again, self-storage, we believe we are a service and a benefit to the community, and I ask that you not enact a prohibition. So, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you hearing me out.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming by and, speaking to us. Thank you. Do we have anyone else to speak?
Yes, we do have an online comment from Kay. Kay, you will have 3 minutes to provide comment. Please state your name. You may begin.
Good evening. My name is Karen. I am a resident here in Indio, and I also participated in the general plan development. And I want to say that I support the temporary halt of new development of storage facilities. I ask that you make this recommendation to council. And following up the last comments that were shared and the written comment that you got, like, we already have storage units. Like, those already exist in our community. It is fair to put a 5-year halt and make that explicit, right? It's 5 years. Want to test something else out, see what else works for Indio, see who else is attracted and can benefit from these zoning policies that residents helped create with council, with staff years back, and that we have to sort of work with and abide within until 2040. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
There are no more online comments. All written comments have been sent to the commission and posted on our website.
Thank you. See no other requests to speak. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. And we can have deliberations, questions, or a motion.
Well, I don't see any sort of deliberation. We've done this and given it due diligence. We started this process February of last year when we made the recommendation for the moratorium and have extended it. And we really appreciate all members of both the industry and the public commenting today on this. I would like to make a motion to the resolution, but would like to consider, for staff to consider adding the language of the limitation or review within 5 years, and if possible for us to add some language already gone through the entitlement process.
So, Chair and Commission, if the motion is seconded, you have a choice. You can either accept it as proposed, or the motion maker can amend the staff proposed motion to include additional elements such as those stated by Commissioner Rodriguez-Ceja. So it's entirely up to you. Alternately, if the commissioner just wants to make a motion, another commissioner can make a friendly amendment to that motion, and you can vote on that. So you have options. It might be the cleanest for Commissioner Rodriguez-Ceja to, in his motion making, to, and you already did a very good job summarizing them, just to make clear that the motion includes those two items that you just discussed.
Do we need to deliberate whether we?
I need a second at this
Okay.
point. Do we need to have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. I think now we can discuss it. Any comments? No, you're good? You're good? Yeah, I think I agree with you. I like the idea of adding those two items so that what gets to council is clear, and hopefully they can just make a simple decision. I'm not big on prohibitions, but I think at this time, 5 years is a good thing. So do we need help from the attorney to draft that language, or is that enough to then direct staff to draft it?
Can you hear me? That should be enough to direct to staff to include that in the language for the staff report.
Then we have a motion. If we can please have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Rodriguez-Ceja,
Yes.
Commissioner Isiano,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Lopez,
Yes.
Chairperson Franz,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you.
Chair, thank you. On behalf of staff, we want to thank you. This was, as I said, a 17-month process, although you voted to recommend last February. You started in December of 2022. So I appreciate the Commission's patience, understanding, and diligence. This was a very, I think, thoughtful process. You didn't rush to judgment. You invited different parties to give their thoughts and concerns. As I mentioned earlier, based on your recommendation, we will be scheduling this to go to City Council right now, tentatively on June 19th. We'll make sure that the participants this evening are made aware of that date, as well as other parties that have participated in the process. And there is a proverbial another bite at the apple for all parties to make their thoughts, ideas, concerns known to City Council, who has the final decision-making ability. So thank you again.
Perfect. We do want to thank staff as well. This was a little complicated, and it took a lot of time and thought, and I think through the process, we all learned a lot, and sometimes our ideas kind of changed along the way, but we do thank you for all the time and getting that information to us.
I'd be remiss if I didn't also point out that significant work was done by Kendra Reeve, Principal Planner, and Nico Gutron, Assistant Planner, who did a lot of the work throughout this process in order to help me to be able to be here this evening, so I want to thank them both.
Absolutely. We know where the work gets done, so thank you very much. Okay, we don't have any study session items at this time. Do I have any commissioner comments?
Yeah, just to say publicly, thank you all for all of the work for the last item. And I was actually a part of the groundbreaking for the new sports complex that's coming to our city of Indio. And I want to say congratulations to us all. This is a long time coming. And yeah, I just want to commend everyone on city staff that I know it takes a lot to put together these applications to secure the funds. And so, yeah, I just want to say congratulations to the city of Indio for this upcoming large sports park that we're getting.
Anything else? No? Nothing? Okay, I guess that's all we have for commissioner comments at this time. Do we have any staff items?
I just wanted to let everyone know that BH Properties, or Oasis at Indio, formerly known as BH Properties, is going to be holding a community meeting tomorrow, 5/9 at 5:30 p.m. at the COD campus here in Indio. It's going to be held in room 105, and they're just going to be going over some project details and answering questions that residents or interested parties may have on the project. So again, that's tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. at College of the Desert Indio campus, room 105.
Any chance that'll be on Zoom?
I'm not sure, but I can ask if they are offering hybrid formats and get that information over to you as soon as possible. And if they are offering a hybrid format, we can get that information uploaded to our city website as well.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Just one item. As you are likely aware, we are in budget season for the upcoming fiscal year budget for fiscal year 24 and 25. We do include monies in the community development budget to support training for commission members. So if you do have a training that is relevant to the work that you perform, please let us know, and we will try to make sure that you are able to attend that. It's not a large budget, so we have to be judicious, but if there is a training you're interested in that is relevant to the work that you do, please do let us know, and we will do our best to secure you an opportunity to attend that training. So again, the new budget won't take effect till July 1 of 2024. We are pretty much at the end of our budget for this fiscal year in terms of training opportunities, but anything after July 1, please do let us know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other items, thank you everyone for attending. We'll go ahead and close the Planning Commission meeting, and we will meet at our regularly scheduled meeting on May 22nd. Thank you, everyone.